Welcome to Infinite Tales. Please subscribe to my channel. Your one click keeps this universe alive. Folded hands. Mother. It's him. It's him. The universe had a strange habit of repeating itself. If nothing else, Thorin Vance had learned that stars were stubbornly consistent in their decorations. Standing at the observation deck of the Times Meridian, he watched the endless, unblinking scatter of light beyond the reinforced glass. 17 star systems away from Earth. The stars looked exactly the same as they had from the small window of his childhood. Home on Mars. The stars hadn't changed. Had 62 years had carved deep channels into his face and turned his hair the color of an aging invasion fleet. He looked exactly like what he was, a military relic who had survived long enough to become a bureaucratic inconvenience. Below him spun Valera's prime, a world of violet seas and silver continents, rotating with the lazy confidence of something that had existed for 4 billion years. It was breathtaking. Thor knew better than to trust beauty. In his experience, beauty usually hid teeth. Commander Vance, a voice cut in. Sharp and precise. Lieutenant Petra Holloway stepped up beside him. 28 years old, brilliant, terrified. She vibrated with the nervous energy of someone who had memorized every diplomatic protocol ever written and fully expected to die because of a single misplaced gesture. The angle of the thumb is critical. Sir, she said, adjusting her collar. 40 degrees is a greeting. 35 implies a romantic interest in the recipient's grandmother. 45 is a formal declaration of ritual combat. Thorin finally turned to her, one eyebrow rising. That, he said dryly, is an unreasonable margin for error. Valari culture values precision, Petra replied, demonstrating the gesture again. Her fingers cascaded downward in a flowing pattern meant to mimic temporal drift. To Thorin, it looked like a hand cramp waiting to happen after 7 attempts. Petra declared his version safely neutral, though she still looked ready to faint. The Times Meridian began its descent, the windows darkening as Valera's prime swelled into view like a bruised jewel. Thorin's thoughts drifted backward. 20 years to another ship, another life, and a younger man wearing his face. He had been 38 during the Great Siege. The Terran fleet had been ready to crack the planet's crust. The Valari masters of light, sound, and harmonic resonance had refused to surrender. Thorin had received the order, personally, destroy the Temple of Resonance. He remembered the targeting computers, singing their cold mathematical song of death. He remembered the smoke clearing just enough to reveal the courtyard. Below. Civilians. Huddled together. A woman clutching a child. Her eyes had met his across the impossible distance, filled with terror and a plea war never promised to answer. Thorin had powered down his weapons. He had turned away. The act of insubordination had ended the war not with victory, but with stalemate. And eventually, with peace. Now 2 decades later, he was returning to the scene of his crime. The escort vessels are arriving, Petra whispered. Ships of living crystal emerged from the void, their forms rippling with internal light, gliding without visible propulsion. As the shuttle entered the atmosphere, the sky itself began to hum, not just color. Sound. A low harmonic vibration pressed against Thorin's chest as if the planet itself were singing in welcome or warning. They landed in the City of Seals, a dreamscape of glass spires and flowing crystal canals. The air was sweet and loud with layered resonance. Waiting for them stood Counselor Vilithan, tall and severe, eyes the color of cold amber. Thorin performed the greeting gesture. He didn't accidentally propose marriage, but Velithan's reception was cold enough to freeze helium. You are here as a symbol, Commander, she said. Not all of us welcome your return. The diplomatic quarters were lavish, though baffling. A preserved 6-legged creature stood in one corner, while a standard human toaster set displayed like a sacred Relic. Absurd and dangerous. Because beneath the comedy lay the truth. The Terran Council hadn't sent him for peace. They had sent him because his mercy had become a legend. A weapon they hoped to wield. Morning arrived with a crescendo of light. Dressed in neutral blue and silver robes, Thoron ascended the crystal spires into the chamber of resonance. The hall shimmered. A cathedral of condensed light where the Harmonic Council sat in judgment. He prepared to speak. Petra's carefully crafted diplomatic script. The doors opened. The air shifted. A young woman entered. Her gaze locking onto his with the force of a targeting system. Behind her walked an older woman, her dark hair streaked with silver. "Mother," the young woman whispered, her voice cutting through the harmonics. "It's him." Thorin froze. He knew those eyes. He had seen them through smoke and fire 20 years ago. "Commander Vance," the older woman said, her voice trembling with restrained emotion. "I am Valithra. This is my daughter Saralyn." The chamber went silent. "We have waited 20 years to meet you." The image of the Terran monster shattered under the weight of living gratitude. Later, in private chambers, diplomacy fell away. Saralyn placed a hologram between them, a grainy image of a younger Thorin. Taken from battlefield recordings. "I kept this," she said quietly. "Why did you disobey orders? Why did you save us?" Thorin stared at the image, then at the woman who existed because of his hesitation. "It wasn't bravery," he admitted. "It was selfishness. I couldn't live with your face in my memory if I pulled that trigger." Saralyn took his hand. "You call it selfish," she said. "I call it the reason I'm alive." But peace was fragile. Valithra revealed the truth: extremist factions, manufactured incidents, and humans who wanted war to return. "We need the man from the hologram," Saralyn said. "The one who makes inconvenient decisions." Thorin looked at his aging hands. "I will help," he said. "But we do this my way." The weeks that followed became a quiet war. Evidence surfaced. Lies collapsed. When Thorin finally stood before the joint councils, he didn't negotiate. He exposed, named names, destroyed the conspiracy with truth. 3 months later, a real treaty was signed. On his final day, Thorin stood overlooking the singing canals as Saralyn joined him. "You could stay," she said. "I have to go," he replied. "I need to remember who I am without the legend." She smiled. "The man who saved us. He's still there." Thorin watched the stars as the shuttle rose. They hadn't changed, but he had.